Hello, guys. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Philip, and I'm an event manager at the company Fiscal Solutions. And today I will be your host. We hope that you're settled in, that you have and you make yourself some coffee or tea, maybe some snacks, or maybe even a cocktail if you're not working anymore, and that you're ready for our first retail talk in this 2024. I know and I'm sure that it will be very, very interesting today, especially since we have a very special guest, I would say. But before we start this conversation, I would like to just briefly introduce Fiscal Solutions to you who may be with us for the first time. So, Fiscal Solution is a leader in the production of software for fiscalization, and it cooperates with clients from over 27 countries in the world. And in addition, company also provides consulting services. I would also like to point out that the company has launched a completely new, modern, and very fast solution for fiscalization, which we called Fiscal Cloud. And we will talk about that in the weeks to come. So if you're interested in that topic, you need to follow us and to be sure to watch that retail talk. So it's time to say something more about our guest today. Today with us is Mitul Jain, the CEO and founder of company Refive. The company allows retailers to use digital receipts and other smart touch points to collect data from customers in store. Mitul also has so much experience when we talk about AI and data that drive customers' value. So, Mitul, thank you for being here today with us. It's our pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me, Philip. It's a pleasure to be here and very excited for today's talk with Darko and yourself.
Yes. And as Mitul mentioned, with us today is also Darko Pavic, CEO and of Fiscal Solutions. And also Darko has 20 years, I would say, of experience when we talk about fiscalization and retail. Am I correct, Darko?
Yes, and it sounds terrible because it seems that I'm so old to have hundreds of years of experiences, but that's actually true. I started my career in 1997, I think. At that time at Siemens Nixdorf, so many, many years ago, but all the time just in retail and just focusing on the technology in retail. So I'm happy to be here today with you guys.
Yes, we are happy too. I'm very glad that we're going to talk about this topic. It's very interesting topic. We are going to talk about three levels of understanding our customers, and in this beginning, I would just like to ask Mitul, can he please explain a little bit what three levels are and what they mean for all the watchers who maybe don't know?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. So if you think about, the relationship between a business and a customer, we like to think of it as the three levels with which that relationship is built. And that relationship going through those three levels means you also understand the customer at three different levels of depth, let's say. So level one is, and if you look at this image that we have here, level one is your anonymous customers. So they're customers. And now if we speak in the retail context, they're customers who are coming into your store, they're buying something and they're leaving. And you don't really know who they are. They're not left a trace behind in terms of their name, their identity, or anything like that. But they're still customers who we want to identify in some way and understand their behavior, and ideally over time convert them into the second stage, which is identified customers. So these are customers where we really have a way to identify and re-identify them with something more concrete, let's say an email address or a phone number. So if Darko's coming into my store the first time, I don't know his name, I don't know his email, I don't know his phone number, but he comes a second time, a third time, he's still an anonymous customer. But if I'm able to understand his behavior, there's a lot of value in that. Ideally, what I want to do is find out a bit more so I can just know that this isn't just an anonymous customer who has a certain behavior, but this is this specific customer, and that's your identified customers. And then level 3 are opted in customers. Opted in is a GDPR context, but in simple words, it's a customer who said, not only do I let you know my name and my identity, I also allow you to communicate with me going forward. So level 1 is I kind of know that there's someone interacting with me, buying from me. I have a relationship, but I don't know who they are. Level 2 is I know your name or some form of identifier of you, and I can use that to better understand how to serve you. And level 3 is I've earned the right to communicate with you even after you leave my business, and keep staying in touch with you, because that's how strong that relationship now is. So in some ways, it's like dating. You see the person you like on the street often, you're like, oh, that's an anonymous target. And then maybe you find out their name, and then ideally you want to get the phone number and stay in touch with them.
Yes, that's why we call this retail talk from anonymous to engage, and I'm sure that in the questions that will come, we will go deeper into this topic and explain everything. But before we do that, I will just want to ask Darko, what do you think? Do these phases different? How much in B2C and B2B approach?
This is a very good question, and I'm really happy that we are able to cover both areas. So this means B2C, which is more retail oriented, let's say, or typical for the retail, and B2B, which is more, let's say, typical for the businesses like we are. So during the talk today, I will try to make a balance between retail concepts that Mitul will cover, and of course, more business-oriented concepts that we are trying to implement in our business as well. There are slight differences, of course, and unfortunately, the businesses like we are focusing not enough on the business loyalty, on the customer loyalty strategies, because they are just producing the products and trying to find the new customers, but they never really go deep into the detail how to create real customer loyalty concepts. I would like to say that we have in the business to business area as well 3 different levels of customers, but I would like to structure them a little bit differently because we don't have anonymous customers. In B2B, you cannot sell to anonymous customers, especially if you are doing something like we are doing, means creation of the software for the tax authorities and dealing with taxes. You cannot make your tax report without giving your name. So we have for sure to know exactly who is the customer. Nevertheless, we have the first level of the customers, which are actually just happy to have our solutions. They have the solutions, they are using it, and that's it. They don't want any kind of engagement. They are looking to get some kind of discounts and benefits in case it's possible, but that's it. This is the first level of customers. We love them, but these customers are not that powerful and not that, let's say, deep inside of our business. The second level of the customer loyalties or typical customers are more, or let's say, the customers that are a little bit more engaged in our processes, let's call it like that. They want to influence our roadmap, for example. They want to develop certain features to get them, let's say, developed. They want to get insights and information about the software development, how we are doing it, and so on. So this is the second level. And those customers are actually, for us as a business, much better. We can generate much more revenue with those customers because they are ready, let's say, to pay even more for that kind of influence on our development. And then we have the third level of the customers that are really engaged. Those customers really like our solutions. They see huge benefits in using them, and they are something like even ambassadors. They want to create something like community around our solution because they know if we have lots of consumers, lots of customers and users of our software will be better because we will simply have more revenue and we will invest more. The software will be more tested, of course, because we will have more users and so on. They understood that, and they are trying even to sell our solution. Those customers are the best for the business to business area.
It's very interesting. I see it's very different from B2C, but it's interesting. We are going to talk about that more. But Mitul, when we speak about first level, anonymous level, let's clarify a little bit how sellers can use that data. Can you give us an example for that?
Absolutely. So if you think of retailers, right? So now we swing back into the B2C world. In the end, you have customers that are visiting stores regularly, that are purchasing possibly even large amounts, having large transactions and with high frequency, but retailers don't have a way to engage with them, right? So these are your anonymous customers. Now, these customers and understanding their behavior can already be very valuable for a retail business. If you think of a retail business, you have a store, you're deciding which products to put in there, you're deciding how to price those products, you're deciding how to merchandise them, place them in the store so that they're attractive to customers, and then you're effectively deciding, which ones to promote, which ones to add special offers on in order to drive more business with your customers, right? So understanding customers better allows retailers to say, from my 1,000 customers, I know that these 100 are customers who come once a month. They spend at least 100 euros with me with each transaction, and they are super loyal. Some of them may have joined my loyalty program, but these ones haven't, but they're still very loyal customers, but they're the anonymous ones. Then there's these remaining 200-300 that come once in a quarter. And then there's the remaining 500 that come maybe once in a year, right? I'm taking one dimension, which is the purchase frequency. But even for the anonymous customers, by understanding these kind of parameters, retailers can now decide, okay, so from my pool of customers, I have these segments. What do I need to make sure is available in my store for this segment? What do I need to offer this segment in order to keep them coming back? And what do I need to do in order to make sure that this segment is going to be spending the maximum possible they can? So what do I price it? Which mix of products do I offer? And so on and so forth. So the value really for retailers with the anonymous data and understanding that is knowing not just, okay, I sold 300 bags, 200 t-shirts, and 150 belts last month, but to know that my customer base was made up of these many customers, and these were the behaviors of each of those segments, and this is what I need to offer them to maximize the value I can generate from my store. Even if I don't know who their names are, even if I don't know that they're members of my loyalty program or have the email, but I understand who they are, what they want, and what I need to do to serve them, to get the most value from them, and to make sure that they come back the next month or the next quarter or the next year and stay loyal to me, just like the last customers that Darko mentioned.
Yes, and stay loyal, so they can go to the second and the third phase, which we're going to talk about later. But Darko, I just wanted to ask you. You previously said that we don't have that anonymity phase. So our first phase, when we research to, for example, some our clients or something, or someone to sold them our product, isn't that anonymity phase? Something like that in B2B?
Very good point. Definitely it is, because if you are starting your business in any kind of markets, you don't know yet the customers by name, of course, and you have to research, you have to generate the leads first. And in the moment, if the leads is becoming lead, it's not anymore anonymous for your business, for the most of the B2B businesses. But in retail, it's I would like to say a little bit different. In retail, it's a game of big numbers. For example, if you have 1,000 people coming into your stores, you don't need to know the names in order to create statistical overviews about what those guys are doing. If they are moving left or right, if they are spending long time in front of the POS or not. So those numbers are very important to influence your business, of course, because then you can adapt your strategies and you can put your billboards, advertisement or whatever on the right place, for example. In B2B, you don't have this kind of big data that you can use in order to make your business better. You need the real users with real names. Then you get the feedback from them, and then you are able to generate the next release of your software, for example, in order to be better. So from that point of view, we need, and we have, of course, lead generation phase where we don't know the customers. But as soon as we create lead, we know them exactly. And then we are going through all those three levels that I mentioned just before till we get the customers that are really engaged. But there are not that many customers that are ambassadors of the products usually.
Yes, I think that's a big difference between these two when we talk about a retail industry. But I don't know, do you guys know? But there is a fact that one person in today's world receives more than 17,000 pieces of information in just one day, and psychologists say that the person remembers only three information at the end of the day. Some, I would say, optimistic psychologists say they remember six informations at the end of the day. But when we talk about 70,000 informations and only six at the end of the day, it's really a small number. And I think that in this crowd world, companies are constantly fighting for our attention. So Mitul, the question for you: how can we achieve a deeper connection with our customers when we talk about that second phase, especially when we talk about third phase? Because we don't want to be boring, we don't want to end up in spam, we don't want to be canceled by our customers. We just want them to be loyal to us. So, what do we need to do?
So, I mean, if you ask my girlfriend, I don't think she believes I even remember one fact by the end of the day. So six seems like a lot. But jokes apart, I think it's a very important question to ask, right? Because it's the crux of why we truly believe retailers need to understand their customers, and retailers spend a lot of money to do that, because the better you understand your customer, the more relevant you can be, right? So let me break that down a little bit. We spoke about how do we not be boring, how do we not get into spam. um, if you go back into psychology, at the end of the day, people spend 80% of their day when they're thinking about things, thinking about themselves. And the way to be truly relevant to someone is to give them something that they identify with, because that becomes a part of who they are and what they think about. In simple words, if we're targeting retail customers who we've earned that third level of trust with, that they've opted into communications, it's not just an opportunity, but it's almost our right as retailers to say, we give you then something that's truly relevant to you, right? And this is a big gap today. If you think of most retail communications, what you're getting has almost nothing to do with what you're interested in. You'll either get, oh, you bought a shoe, here are more shoes. We know you like shoes, right? Or you'll get, here's what 10 other people who bought something you bought liked. Or sometimes you'll get something completely irrelevant that, is just based on, okay, it's Halloween, so buy another pair of shoes. And that has two reasons why that happens today. One is just, it is hard to do this at scale, to personalize at scale. So that's an area we focus on a lot, is how do we help retailers really give each customer at scale a personalized experience without having to create a team of like 300 marketers to do that. But even before that, the problem comes in understanding customers at that level. So if you're able to understand them well, create those good profiles, understand what purchases trigger what kind of behavior afterwards, what communication triggers what kind of purchase behavior, and in the end, think of it as knowing your customers the way you know a good friend, and you know their likes and dislikes. Then the next step is take that information, convert it into meaningful messages, and then make them available to the customer at the right time, right? So timing is an important aspect as well. I'm not interested in buying skiing gear in the middle of the summer, right? That's a very generic example, but take it more specific. There's stories of retailers having figured out that a customer was pregnant even before the customer knew, and that created some sort of friction as well. So timing is important in the sense of, you need to respect when the customer is in a state to buy, when they're willing to buy, and when they have a need to buy, and then combine that with the message of what's relevant to them. And I think when we do that, we end up in not the spam folder, not getting them bored, but actually delighting them, and making them feel like, wow, this is someone who gets me and is thinking about me just as much as I'm thinking about myself. And so I want to go back there, and I want to tell my friends about them and become that ambassador.
Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting, and I know myself that I'm a loyal customer from some stores, and when I see their emails, they say we have sale or something like that. I just click and buy because they know me very well, as you said. They know me even sometimes better than me. But Darko, when we talk about B2B in this way, when do we go from wanting to know our customers to boredom and spam? Because also in B2B, the companies also using newsletters, emails, and something like that to for example, give it some sale to customers or something like that.
Yeah, we are doing that as well. And sometimes my teammates are telling me, don't send that many emails or whatever posts on the social networks. But I have a little bit different opinion. So let me start with the attention spam that you just mentioned in the beginning. Usually, me too, and everybody else is thinking that the new generations don't have a huge spam of attention. They are talking about 7 seconds or something. But just to help you understand how the world is changing or not changing, let me tell you the story. As I started my career in the sales, the guy who was mentor to me told me, if you create sales presentation, take care of the first slide and the last slide. In between, nobody cares. And this was 15 years ago. So actually, the changes are not that huge. But what is changing, this is the understanding of the values. What was valuable for me and my generation is now not anymore valuable for you and or for the newer generations. So this means if I'm a retailer and if I don't understand the change of the values, whatever I produce as a content, it will be spam because the people that see it will think it's not valuable at all. But if I understand the value, people and I get the value, people will understand it differently. Just imagine the situation. If I give you €1 today, or dollar in this case, you will love it, of course, because it's a value that I'm giving to you. If I give you each minute $1, you will love me and my content and my company and everything. So this means it's the question, which value do I produce with content that I'm giving to you? Me personally, I understand the social networks a little bit different in the moment. And this is basically the most important channel in today's sales world, let's say, social networks. You have to do it, you have to run it, otherwise you are not able to be successful. If we are talking about the social networks, many people are afraid of posting more because they think they will create something like a spam and audience will ignore them even more and so on. But the question is, what is the how the networks are working today? And there is a big change if you compare the social networks couple of years ago and today. Couple of years ago, I was actively searching for the content. And it was not important if I'm doing that in Google or I did that on Facebook or whatever, but I was actively looking for some content. Social networks today are working differently. They are algorithm based, and the content is looking and searching for the consumers. This is totally switch of the mindset up of the networks, of the algorithm. So this means the more content pieces I produce, I will reach, and my content will search more for more consumers, of course. The more content equal more consumers. So this means don't be afraid to produce more content, but be afraid to produce not valuable content. If the content is not valuable, even one piece of the content will be understood as a spam. Actually, that's how I see that.
Okay, I will agree with you with that. So that the social media, social networks is so important today when we talk about sales and everything. So but we have here today with us an expert when we talk about digital receipts and smart touch points in store, and that's you, Mitul. So here is a question for you. Can you just explain to all of us who maybe don't know what those smart touch points represents, and how actually can they be used to collect data from customers in store, because we know about collecting data on the internet, and that's what Darko maybe talked about when he said about the social media and everything we talked about that previously. But what are those smart touch points? How can we collect that data?
Yeah. So before I jump into describing the touch points itself, I think Darko said something really important that connects to this,
Mhm.
right? There's a generational shift, and it's not just generational. I see it happening also, not just in the new generation, but also older generations' behavior changing. And the clue lies in what Darko said about algorithms, right? Because we are spending, I don't know, anywhere between 7 to 10 hours a day on our devices. And in that time, we're spending a lot of time with these algorithms. We're spending time with our LinkedIn feed, with our TikTok feed, with our reels, etc. What is happening in people's minds is they're getting more and more used to constantly seeing things that are relevant to them and personalized to them, right? So this is also what we were discussing previously.
Yes.
Now, fast forward into the physical world. If you're thinking of a store and you're walking into a store, most stores have not changed that much in the last 200 years, right? It's kind of the same thing. Maybe you have more lights, you have more displays, you have more schnick schnack, but at the end of the day, it's a physical place. There are goods, and then you go somewhere and you pay for the goods. The way you pay, maybe you're using your phone instead of your wallet and paper, but practically that experience hasn't changed. And what that means is you have these customers whose brains are wired, and I include myself in that, to receive a flow of relevant information that's relevant to them, that's personalized to them, and to be able to access information on demand. And this is the second and important trend to keep in mind here. Customers don't want to stand in a store and wait for the staff to come to them and then have this whole conversation. Many of these staff are not that well trained or not that aware. They want to be able to get access information on demand. So I was buying a perfume the other day for a gift for someone, and I found myself, instead of asking the people in the store for recommendations, just Googling things that I wanted. I even asked ChatGPT for a recommendation, right? So this self-service behavior is increasing even in physical store context. So we put these ideas together and we said, okay, we want to be able to give the customer a new store experience that's more relevant to them. So that's why we created the touch points, which are working on a self-serve basis. And then two, we also want to be able to do this in a frictionless way and be very personalized. And that's sort of the idea behind this. So if you look at the touch points now, right, we start with, for example, the digital receipt. You're at the till, you've completed paying and you want to leave with your receipt. Instead of taking a paper receipt, that's the same old, same old. You scan a QR code, you get a digital receipt in your browser, and that's fully personalized. It's personalized in terms of the information you get about the products you just received. It's personalized in terms of the offers you'll get related to your current purchase, and it's personalized in terms of even in your own language and your own sort of look and feel as a retailer. And then you come back to the store and you want to know what's on sale in store today, what's available, what's on offer at the moment, and you get to the smart store assistant, right? So this is just a landing page for the store. It's a QR code at the entrance of the store that, as a customer, you can interact with. And instead of walking into the same store as everyone else, through that you get your own store experience that's personalized to you. So you're seeing information about the store based on your needs, based on your tastes and preferences. You're getting an offer for the day that's based on what you like, and so you're more motivated when you're in the store to actually seek out those offers, those experiences. And then when you're in the store and you're looking for certain products, you're back in the same situation, right? You're trying to figure out what's relevant to me, what do I want. I want to find out more information. And again, instead of having to go wait for someone, you scan a QR code at a product, you find out more information about the product, you get a personalized recommendation, you get insight into the availability of that product online or in other stores of the brand, and so on and so forth. And now what's happened is, from a customer's perspective, you've had one click away, always the most relevant and personalized information for you, for your purchase behavior, for your experience, and for your convenience. On the other hand, through every one of these interactions, we're able to collect data about your behavior, first anonymously, then ideally with an identified way, and eventually you've opted in. and give that insight to the retailer and say, look, this is Philip. He's been shopping in the store now 6 times. These are the kind of products he's interested in. This is what he's finally buying. And help the retailer to, at scale, as I mentioned earlier, personalize each of these interactions for you, but also give them the insight they need to convert you into a loyal customer even once you leave the store. And that's basically how this works. So that's the idea is we don't want the customer to have to do more work. Customers are lazy. They don't want to download one more app, want to create one more account, carry one more card with them. But at the same time, they want personalization and they want it at their own fingertips without having to wait for someone to come to them and give them that experience. And the easiest way to provide that is just give it to them on their smartphone with a simple scan of a QR code or a tap of an NFC.
Yes, I will agree that that's the easiest way because, as you said, the customers are sometimes lazy. We don't want another app on our phone. As you said, we are constantly on our phone. And as I previously mentioned, we have so many informations. At the end of the day, we only remembers three, so no apps, but this is very helpful. Just one click away, I would say, just to scan that QR code. And retailers have more information and we have the product that's for us. So Darko, there is a big difference when we contact, let's say, potential clients via email, or when we talk to them live at, for example, fairs or at some other live events. But what are the differences, and are there any ways to efficiently use previously collected data in order to reach leads when we talk about researching online and then having a live conversation, for example, at the fair? You just been to New York NRF, so maybe you can give us an example.
Yes, I would be glad to do that. But before I go and jump into that area, I would like to discuss a little bit the topics that Mitul just mentioned, because he explained the reason why we partnered with the Refive. And I will do it. I will explain it from my point of view, just for everyone to understand. If you take the typical receipt like this one, it's not really big, technically, not really big issue to make it digital, because it's actually just a JPEG or PDF that you create. That's easy. But what is not easy is to create the business case, how to use this receipt to generate more values. We just discussed topic about the spam and value. This is for me spam, to be honest. Why? I keep it in my wallet just because I need it because of the warranty. And I covered the company name so that I don't make any kind of advertisement, but it's technical retailer who is dealing with the technical things, items and so on. And I have to keep that because of the warranty. So one of the use cases, of course, the topic related to the warranties. But even that, it's not different than just saving JPEG somewhere in your digital wallet. This is technically, as I mentioned, not that big issue. But what Refive did, and that's the reason why we partnered with them, they went step ahead. They thought about how to create the additional value for the consumers and for the retailers. And retailers will buy something only if the consumer have the added value. So the point is not to make it with the flowers for the retailers, and that the retailer likes it because the color is nice. The point is to make it valuable for the consumer, like in this case, myself. And this is what Refive did perfectly. They created really great concept of the customer loyalty behind the receipt. So they are using actually stupid piece of paper, sorry, but it's stupid at the end, even if it's digitalized, in order to generate additional value for the end user, for the consumers, and by that for the retailers, to create loyal customers. And that's what we loved. And that's why I think this is absolutely a great success story. So just to add as explanation, why did we partner with Refive? Now coming back to the email and real-life events and the typical, let's say, channels that the companies can use in order to reach their customers. Again, it's a little bit different in B2B and B2C. I will talk a little bit more about B2B because we are in that area. And I have to say that I'm very happy that real-life events are back, because if you want to sell something, you have to see the person. You have to understand how this person is reacting if you are telling it something. Yeah. And this is not just in the words. It's there is a body language, there is a non-verbal communication. There are lots of different ways to communicate, and all these ways are missing online. You just see, of course, the pictures, let's say, which are moving like a movie, and that's it. But you cannot feel the other person. So this means the perfect combination for me and for my company is actually to analyze and research online as much as possible, to understand the customers, to understand what they are doing in different markets, and then to meet them face by face and to talk to them. Because if you talk to them, they will tell you about their problems, and then you will be able to solve them. Nothing is better than real life talk to the customers. If we are talking about the channels that we are using to communicate afterwards with the customer, I have to say that email is still the best channel to communicate, at least in our area. So this means the success rates, if we are sending the emails, for example, as invitation to our webinars, is much, much, much higher than if we are just posting somewhere on TikTok or whatever. Maybe this is related because we don't have millions of followers, of course. Although in B2B is not that important, because in B2B you need just a couple of followers, which are actually your targeted customers. You don't need millions. We are B2B. Nevertheless, if we send an emails, feedback is around 40 to up to 50% positive feedback to join the webinars, I mean. And this is huge success. So, but this is different from business to business. I suppose that in our area, in our business, the email is, of course, the most successful channel to communicate. In other businesses, it could be totally different. So it's difficult to say one fits all, let's say, received for success.
Yes, and I will totally agree that me personally, I like live events much more than online events. Of course, this is a brilliant way to communicate and to talk about all those topics when we are not able to be live. But when we talk about retail and about buying, for example, clothes, for me personally, I like to go to stores and and to shop, to watch, to touch all the clothes, for example, and then to buy. So when we talk about today's world, I would say that the online data is abundant, and uh, let's ask you, Mitul, why is capturing in-store customer data so important if we have that online data?
Mm-hmm. So I think you kind of together answered that question a little bit, right? One
Mhm.
is
Yes,
uh,
yes.
people really want to have human in-person experiences, right? So I remember there was a time when we started Refive, and we often got this question, why are you bothering building technology for the stores? Everyone is going to buy online only anyways. And this was close to the pandemic, and I can understand that during the pandemic everyone thought that everything is always going to be online going forward. But if you look at the numbers, the reality is even today globally 80% of retail transactions happen in physical stores, and there's good reason for that, right? Like Darko said, there's a different relationship between people when they see each other in person. There's a different relationship, like you said, between people and products when they have that interaction in person. And it's a fundamental biological human need that's not going to go away, right? There are commodity goods that customers will continue to purchase online. It might increase. Maybe even some specialized goods, more and more people will buy online. I myself do buy a lot online as well, but that fundamental human behavior of buying in store will not change. So even if we go from 80% in store to 50% in store, what that means from a retailer's perspective is that if you don't collect data or you don't understand the behavior of your in-store customers, that's half of your customers that are a black box, right? So if you think about that as any business, if you don't know who half your customers are, what they're doing, what their behaviors, what their needs, what their tastes are, in today's day and age where, as we've been talking about, people want things to be relevant, personalized, and tailored to their tastes. And for that, you need that data. It's almost not an option to say, no, we don't care about in-store data. If anything, it's an absolute necessity as a retailer to be understanding in-store customers at least as well as online customers, if not better. Also, from a business perspective, the in-store customers tend to be much more profitable for retailers. You don't have same level of returns, you don't have the same level of fraud, etc. So understanding those customers, understanding what makes them buy in-store versus online, and using that to optimize the business is a tremendous opportunity for any retailer, and they should be investing in that yesterday already.
And beyond that, personalization and better customer experience, are there any other effects of understanding in-store customers?
Absolutely. So if this is the question for me, is it
It's a
question for
question
me?
for both of you. For both of you, you can answer Darko too. Then
Yes,
we can go back to Mitul. I was just asking because Mitul mentioned everything. Why is important to capture that data? So
yes.
this is the question that is also important to understand.
Let me just add one point. We mentioned real life fairs, trade shows, and one was just the biggest one was a couple of weeks ago in New York, NRF. We had a meeting there with one of the largest fashion brands in the world, and if I mean large, and then really large. And those guys told me, our strategy is shifting from online to physical stores again. And I was so surprised because I thought, just like Mitul explained, that e-commerce and online strategies will evolve and even increase after the pandemic time. But it seems that the retailers are coming back to the stores and the store-related strategies. Just to confirm what Mitul just said. Coming to the store data and why those data are so important, I mentioned in the beginning of our discussion that it's not just about the transaction and the data which are in the transactions, like amounts, items, and so on. It's even much more related to the behavior of the customer in the store. Technically, you track the customer from the first moment if the customer enters the store. You are following that customer with different systems around you, with cameras, with sensors, and so on, because you are collecting the data, which are very, very important. Those data are used actually to optimize the business processes of the retailers and to optimize, for example, the offering in the store, to optimize the prices in the store. Because if I see, for example, that 100 people are entering the store, but only 10 of them are creating transactions, I have a problem as a retailer, a huge one. So I have to analyze what is actually the reason for that, why the people are leaving the stores without buying something. So this means that the something in the store is not as the customers are expecting. And for that data, or for that decisions and analysis, you need the data. And that's why collecting the data is crucial from my point of view.
Yes, I will agree, but maybe today the reason is could be inflation, maybe. Or but Mittel, do you want to add something when we talk about that?
I think Darko covered it pretty well, right? I think there's going to be changes in customer behavior. There's going to be changes in what drives a business's own motivations. There's changes in what you offer out there, and that data is not just to say, okay, now I understand my customers and now I can market to them forever. But collecting the in-store data, understanding that behavior over time also helps understand how these trends are shifting. And like you said, it could be today inflation driving certain behavior. Tomorrow, it could be something going viral on TikTok. And the day after that, it could be some other macro effect that's changing customer behavior. Like, suddenly toilet paper was the most valuable commodity in 2021 in Germany.
Yes.
And, no amount of profile data would have let any retailer predict that, but it was a macro effect. And the ones who figured it out sooner, they placed larger toilet paper orders and, probably made more money on the process. So I think it's not just about understanding your customer. If you think of orders and those kind of things, it's also about optimizing the business on the back end and saying, if what I sell has to be driven by the demand my customers generate, the better I'm able to forecast, understand, and predict that demand, the better I can go backwards and figure out what I need to be buying, designing, ordering, and all of those things get more optimized through better data. And that's basically what it comes down to.
Yes. But I have also one important questions, because we are slowly approaching to the end of today's retail talk. This is very important, and it's question for both of you. How can sellers ensure that they are using customer data ethically? Is there a specific example or approach, let's say, that sellers can take to protect their customers' privacy and trust? Because I think that's very important question today, because when we talk about the data that companies collect, when we talk about online buying, it's also important, and it's also important when we talk about collecting data in store. So who will be the first to answer? Mitul?
Darko, do you want to go first this time?
Yeah, I can, no
Okay,
problem.
okay.
Because I want to move a little bit the focus to the laws which are regulating that. And those laws are really, really good. We need them. And they are really the thoughts, or the background thoughts for those laws are actually the security of the consumer data. And this is good. I'm talking about GDPR. I'm talking about saving the credit cards data, which is not allowed in the retail, and so on and so on. So there are lots of laws which are already protecting the consumers. On the other side, retailer don't need those information to make really good decisions, because everything else which is connected to the behavior of the customer don't requires the names or the sensible data. As I mentioned, 100 customers entering the store and just 10 are buying. You don't need the names of those 10 to know that there are 10 and that you have problems in the business area of your retail store. So that's why ethically, if you just follow the laws, you will be already quite good, and and you will not be able to misuse the data, let's say. On the other side, from the technical point of view, and I don't know that very good because we are dealing with a very sensible data, you have to follow very strict security rules in order to secure the transactional data of the retailer and personal data, which are somehow related to the transactions. And every retailer that is implementing such a solutions like our solution, he is analyzing very, very deep in detail everything what we did. Big retailers especially, and I can tell you we did last year 20 or 25 different audits from the retailers that are inspecting our systems and auditing our systems, how secure are the data that we are storing. And I can imagine that other technical providers or solution providers have to do the same for them.
Can only confirm that. Fair number of vendor assessments and checks we have to go through to make sure that all this customer data that we collect for the retailers is well taken care of. And the legal aspect is very important, because those laws exist for a reason. As a vendor, as a retailer, as someone who has to implement them, or even as a consumer who has to click on the cookies button all the time, it may seem like these laws are frustrating and pointless. Just in December, I did an interview with CNBC where we spoke a lot about how in the US, retailers are collecting data and how a lot of this is being used in ways that was not intended to be used, right? So I think customers have an idea that their data is valuable. And as long as they're getting value back for sharing that data, they are comfortable with it. I'm a loyal user of Payback, for example, and I swipe my Payback card in the supermarkets or in the drugstore, etc. when I go there. And that's fine, because I know that I don't mind someone knowing what fruits and vegetables I'm buying, and if in return they're able to give me some points with which I'm able to take some holiday flights, I think for me it's a win-win equation, right? But even if it isn't in the context of loyalty points and loyalty programs, the value can be, as we spoke earlier, in the form of getting more personalized and relevant offers, more personalized and relevant recommendations, and that's also value for customers. And customers are aware of this exchange. They're aware that they're trading their data for some value in return. But the problem comes in when that contract, that trust between the consumer of the data and the creator of the data is broken. And I think that's what the laws in Europe protect from. That's what GDPR, etc., protect from, is making sure that businesses are only taking the data they truly need, and where need can be you need it to personalize better, where they're storing data in safe ways that it's not just being leaked out everywhere, and they're using secure systems like Fiscal Solutions or like ours, and that they're making sure that customers understand how that data is being used. And if that's happening, I think even as a consumer, people are more and more comfortable with it. On the other hand, you have markets where that contract is not protected in any way, and then businesses do overreach and use that data in ways that's not fair to the consumer. And I think that's the differentiation we have to make. So as European citizens, as people living and doing business in Europe or in, let's say, countries that are affected by GDPR, we actually have a big benefit from that. But also as businesses, we have a benefit because we as businesses get a guideline of how we can behave without creating any problems. Whereas when you don't have that guideline and you create those problems, that can lead to a massive lawsuit, which can cause much bigger issues versus following a certain regulatory framework.
I agree. So to conclude, follow the rules and always give the value to your customers. And for the end, I would like each of you to say, what do you think, guys, the future of understanding customers is expected to look like? Is there some futuristic concept or technology that will have a significant impact on this field?
Mitul, you want to start maybe this time?
I'm smiling because, even as someone who spent like 15 years of my life working in tech, the main conclusion I've come to is it's almost never about the technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
The technology is just a tool. It's just an enabler. And so if you ask me, the future of understanding customers is always going to look like thinking of what they need, thinking of what they care about, and giving them value based on that. What technology will enable. So zoom back to 150 years ago, you went to the same shops in your neighborhood or in your little town, and the people working there knew you, and so they were able to give you a personalized experience before data was a thing, right? They knew me by my name, and they said, okay, oh, you're the guy who comes in and buys apples every week. I got a new batch today. Here, try one, have apples. They built that relationship. As brands grew, as they scaled, obviously that became harder and harder to make realistic, right? If I go tomorrow to the electronics store in the mall nearby, they're not going to know me. The staff may not even be there for the next 6 months, and there might be someone else working there. It's impossible to do that. I think what technology will enable is two things. One part, which we're really focused on, is understanding the customer and getting the data you need to uh, understand who they are and be able to give them a personalized experience. And then two, and this is where I think buzzword of the decade, AI, will come in, is being able to make that personalization available to consumers at scale, right? So if I can basically interact with an AI bot who knows me really well, I will always get the ultimate, most personalized experience. And I think that's what will change, is the mechanism through which we deliver it. But the fundamental need to be understood, to feel like the retailer, the business I'm interacting with, the people I'm interacting with understand me, know what I need, and are able to give me that. That's been the same since human emotions evolved, and it will be there until we turn into robots.
Yes, I could definitely agree with you. Darko, what do you think?
I'm trying to remember, let's say, the history of the POS and the software and so on, because this is very interesting. 20 or 25 years ago, the one of the major functionalities of the POS was the end of the day procedure. In the end of the day procedure, the data were deleted more or less, because you had to put the counters on the zero, and you have to clear the system, and the hard disk was limited, so you had to delete the data, or you had to move them somewhere. But moving the data was terrible because you had to transport them manually on the hard disks. So this was the beginning of the data collection period like we know it today. In the next moment, as the technology evolved, we were able to collect more data. And then suddenly we were using the databases, and we put it some kind of trends in that topic, like data warehousing. And suddenly the guys like Walmart or Metro or those big retailers had terabytes of data, lots of data, but they didn't know what to do with them because there are so many data And as a human being, it's very difficult to recognize patterns in those data if you have to do it manually. That was the reason why business intelligence was suddenly there, because the business intelligence promised some rules, let's say, and a technical environment and tools to analyze all those data. And partially it was right, and partially business intelligence tools were perfect to visualize data, to create the base for the decisions and so on. But still, the quantity of the data grow, and we had even more data. So there are data centers full of data. Imagine just a retailer like IKEA, which is active in, I think, 24 countries or something like that. They have millions of transactions and millions of different kind of data sets that can be used on this or that way. Those data are more or less useless today, because you can use just the fractions of it, just the parts, small parts of it, to make some decisions, and that's it. And now we have suddenly development which is called artificial intelligence, which is actually able to analyze the data totally differently. We are talking about analysis which are done like this, based on the experiences, based on the machine learning algorithms and so on. And suddenly, retailer is able, let's say, to get inputs for his decisions, which are unbelievable. So it was not useless to collect those data in the past, but we were missing the tools to analyze them and to use them. And now we have artificial intelligence tools, and they will still evolve and develop, I'm sure. And those tools are enabling retailers, let's say, to create totally new analysis and to make totally new decisions. This will be the next step, I'm totally sure. And the step after that will be not even to decide by yourself. Even the decision can be created by the artificial intelligence, because those decisions are nothing else than algorithms. If this happened and this situation and some macro from outside and this, then do that. And artificial intelligence can do this perfectly. This will be the second step, let's say, in the future. If we see how fast is artificial intelligence developing, I can predict that this kind of changes will be already next year. I'm totally sure, because it's going, like just like that. The new tools and new algorithms are just popping up. So I'm very curious to see how this development will continue to happen and what will happen as the next, because the past generated lots of data that we can use now quite good.
Yes, and as you said, I'm too very curious to see what's going to be next phase, and then we will have another retail talk and talk about that. But today we come to end of this retail talk. I believe it was very interesting, at least it's for me, and I hope that it was very helpful for all of us here, and for all the people who watched us through LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. So, Mitul, thank you again for being here today with us. I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge today with us, and for being here to discuss about this topic.
Thank you so much for having me, Darko and Philip, and for a very, very stimulating conversation. Looking forward to more of this in the future.
Yes, and Darko, thank you also for being here today with us, and also for sharing your experiences, your knowledge, and your views on this topic. In the end, all I have to do is thank you all for being here today with us, and to invite you to follow us on our social medias, because there is more interesting topics. More interesting retail talks will follow in the next few weeks. So have a nice day, guys, and hope to see you.
Just a second.
Okay.
We can continue this discussion in Düsseldorf, because
Yes.
Refive, this means Mitul and his team, and Fiscal Solutions, both of us are present in the trade show in Düsseldorf, and we would be so happy to discuss this topic further, of course, or to give more insights about our products, our strategies, and so on. So, dear guys, join us in Düsseldorf. Let's continue a discussion, or let's just drink a coffee. That's also fine.
Yes, let's meet in Düsseldorf in 27th of February, right? Am I
Yes.
right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, guys, see you there, and hope to also see you soon here in a live studio in the next few weeks. Bye.
Thank you, Mitul. Thank you,
Bye.
Philip. See you guys. Bye. Bye.